Okay, so we start then. So well, it's a pleasure to introduce Fatima. Well, you probably know her because she has been here around for 1 year, I think now, more or less.
Not that much.
Not that much. Okay, almost. Yeah. So she studied in Venezuela, where she's originally from, in the Universidad Central de Caracas, no?
De Venezuela.
And then after that, she did the PhD in La Plata, with someone that we know well, because Federico Vázquez was one of your advisors, and he has been here for quite a while. So, well, after that, she came here and has been working with us in the project FACE of CSIC. Okay, so, well, I mean, without much more introduction, I leave the floor to Fatima. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Jose Javier, for the introduction. And besides, Jose Javier said, what you might not know about me is I also study education sciences. And when I finished my PhD, I wrote a project for my first postdoctoral position that combines both disciplines, the education and complex systems. And so today I want to tell you about that and about this project titled The Knowledge Acquisition Process from a Complex System Perspective. Okay, I would like to start by asking you, in your opinion, what is the relationship between education and complex systems? And don't be shy. Please tell me about it. Yeah, and also, what another relation? Perhaps. Okay. Well, Jesus.
Also, that use to learn is a complex system.
Yeah. Thank you for all the responses. In fact, as I said before, as I want to study this relationship, and for that, in this path, I found the Edgar Morin's complex thought. Edgar Morin is a philosopher, a French philosopher. And for him, knowledge is constructed as a process that is so many things. It's linguistic, cultural, social, historical, at the same time, and for that it's complex. While the traditional epistemology assumes knowledge only from the cognitive point of view. The complexity of educational acts goes from local dynamics, typical of the human being, to global dynamics that integrate the interaction of the agents there that are part of the educational process. So, to model or to understand the educational process, we need a starting point. And what best starting point than a classroom? Because why classroom? Because the classroom is a meeting space between teachers and students, in which a fundamental part of the construction of the new knowledge occurs. When analyzing a classroom and the dynamics within this classroom, we are facing a system that is made up of individuals who influence each other, emerging dynamics that cannot be explained only by the isolated behavior of the individuals. And so for that emerged the relationship with the complex systems. For this project, our goal is to analyze the knowledge acquisition process from the perspective of complex systems in order to understand some global aspect of the teaching and learning process, to propose improvements to current methods and strategies. But what is the knowledge acquisition? Well, it is a joke. It's not John Locke, in fact. John Locke, that is an English philosopher, said that people are born without knowledge, and that it is gained during a personal lifetime, that we are a blank slate. And he said that the knowledge comes exclusively through experiences. But for our purposes, The knowledge acquisition is the process in which the human being learns and develops her or his intelligence. That is, she or he builds knowledge. It can also be thought a dynamic variable influenced by different factors that in a classroom can be intrinsic and extrinsic. The extrinsic factors are, for example, aptitude, motivation, previous knowledge on a topic, and about the extrinsic factors can be the interaction of the individual with her or his environment. That is the interaction of the individual with teachers or with another students. And it reminds us the more complex thought. The first project that I want to share is that one. In this work, we studied the knowledge acquisition process in a teaching learning scenario inside a classroom with two different and complementary approaches, an analytical model and a set of dynamic agent-based models. So, about our setup, our educational context. We work in the National University of La Plata when I made my PhD, specifically in the School of Engineering with the Physics 2 course during 2 semesters with 4 sessions during 2019 with 81 students. At the beginning it was much another students, a group higher, but just 81 students participate in the whole process. How to start a model indicate the knowledge acquisition process? Well, following the ideas proposed by Bordoña and Albano, we classify the group of students into 3 different sets according to their final grade in the course. We have high achieving students, that is HA, average achieving students, AA, and low achieving students, LA. The scales in Argentina goes from 0 and 10, and this course has a modality that the students pass over 6. Yeah. Okay, KF is the final grade obtained in the course. Here we can see the classification of groups of students according to their final grade for our 81 students. Distribution was 13 HA, 34 AA, and 34 LA. And this data shown is randomly ordered for each group. Okay, to model the final knowledge acquired by an individual in the course, this can be posed as the sum of the main terms that I was talking about, that is an extrinsic and extrinsic factors that influence this process. And we have motivation, aptitude and previous knowledge, group influence, interaction with peers, interaction with teacher, and its weight. At this time, it's very important to note that in our study, we focus on a specific type of learning, and this is not the only content of value in the classroom. And we simplify the concept of knowledge as a concrete and quantifiable measure. And also for our purposes, the processes of learning and understanding physics and mathematics are based on well-defined frameworks. Okay, how was the data collected for this work? We made classroom observations and surveys. About the classroom observation, we work, as I said before, with 4 sections during 2 semesters. With this classroom observation, we obtain the spatial distribution in the classroom, the formation of clusters, the formation of groups. And about the surveys, we collect the aforementioned factors in 3 different moments. About the surveys, with the surveys, we collect or we analyze their levels of aptitude with questions to know abilities or performance, personal motivation with questions to know experiences and expectations, previous knowledge, influence of teachers, influence of peers, formation of group, And these data were integrated are the assigned numerical value was compared with the final grade. The survey was made at the first day of the course, at the end of the first parts of the course, and at the end of the course. The quantity, the question, the options that they have, and the values. And finally, these results were compared with the final grade obtained, this quantity we call final knowledge. Going back to the model, we compared these amounts with the final grade, as I said before, and we found that there are coefficients that adjust for each group and not for each individual. And the numbers are here. Okay, here we can see the comparison between the final grade of each student in red circles, ordering in descending order, sorry, and the data collect using the knowledge acquisition model in blue diamonds. We can see that the terms considered in this model approximately reproduce the trend, the behavior observed for real data, reflecting the main mechanisms in the knowledge acquisition process, but the difference are due to the fact that this process is much more complex than only consider for terms. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you, but I don't understand the model. Is this a linear regression? But,
yeah.
Okay. Then, so you're regressing the grades to some factors you think are motivation, aptitude.
Yeah.
But I don't see you optimize the fitting. I don't know. I see very asymmetric. I mean, the real curve is not in the center of the cloud of points.
For this part of the work was by hand and by observation that we put the numbers that we have when this group of students behave the same way or another way, but that was not the best fit, in fact. And for that, we propose another approach, that is the agent-based model. To deepen understand of the knowledge acquisition process, an idea of temporal development of learning processes was needed. And for that, we propose the agent-based models to follow the temporal evolution of the groups based on parameters common to each of the three groups, and the behavior of some individuals, using the set of real parameters that characterize them. Okay, for our agent-based model, we have n agents whose knowledge evolves in discrete time steps. The time unit is 1 week. The semester duration was 16 weeks, and the maximum value that an agent can achieve is 10. Each agent is assigned a vector named knowledge. This vector has the same components as the model, and the dynamic of the incorporation of new knowledge is related to another vector named potential. Basically, at each time step, random numbers are stored for each of the 4 terms. If they fall below of the corresponding potential, a fraction of knowledge is added to the vector AK. And here we can see the results for the agent-based model for each group of students, where the solid green line show the mean value of the final knowledge, and its dispersion in blue lines over 1,000 independent realization for each group with 81. And yeah, again, the red circles are the final grade for each student that I showed you before. This model is the ABM0. I say another variation. I tell you about another variation. And in this case, the peer interaction mimics the KA model where there is not information about the agents. And we can see that this model fits well to real data, and that show a robust behavior that validates this methodology. But we want to go beyond. And for that, we propose another variation of the agent-based models. The first one is the IBM1, where the agents in a given cluster mimic the behavior of the agent with the best overall performance. And in the IBM2, agents in a given cluster mimic the behavior of the agent that has the best performance on its per term. And finally, in the IBM3, each agent can copy the value of the per term from any agent. It's like a check version or so. Here, we can see the results for the IBM1, and that is the mean value of the final knowledge as a function of the number of clusters for 1,000 independent realization for our number of students, and the clusters are randomly formed. In this part of the curve, we have a big cluster composed by 81 students, and here there are 81 individuals. The black stars represents the real data that we have. In fact, in our data, we had 16 clusters, and in gray squares is the whole group, is the group together, and in red, blue, and green is the HA, AA, and LA group respectively. We can see that the final knowledge is always greater when individuals form groups, and the same behavior was observed in another version of the model, the IBM2. But are there significant differences in these curves? Well, let's see. Here, we plot the difference between the two extremes of each curve, the whole group together and separately. In the panel A, we can see the mean value of knowledge, the final knowledge for all agents, and B for HA, in the C for AA, and D for LA. Solid symbols represent a single group, all agents in the same group. And in the empty symbols, no grouping, it's individual behavior. And the letters R and D and O, R, D indicate the way in which the cluster were formed. And we can see that no matter the version, IBM1 or IBM2, you always learn better in a group. And in another hand, with IBM3, you don't learn because you can copy randomly without a criteria. Okay, in summary about this work, we explore two approaches to describe the knowledge acquisition process through surveys, classroom observation, and computational models. And the terms considered in this model approximately reproduce the behavior observed for the real data. Also, we made agent-based models, and all its variation also reproduce the observed behavior, reinforcing the importance of collaborative work. Also, this work reveals the internal dynamics of the classroom and allows us to understand some aspects of the knowledge acquisition process. Then, in the conclusion of this work, we said that it might be worth studying the behavior of the models, considering actors in another educative, its educational context. And in fact, when the gods switched to punish us, they listened to our prayers. And yes, in fact, the COVID-19 pandemic abruptly changed the classroom context, and we had to adapt to new daily life, incorporating new strategies and new methods and tools as a teachers and students. And these results, or the result of this work, are published here. there are my fellow co-authors of this work. Daniela Zacarías del Departamento de Estadística, de Statistical Department of Bariloche, de Universidad Nacional, the National University of Comahue in Bariloche. Fabiana Laguna del FIESTIN, that is Statistical Physics, Interdisciplinary Statistical Physics, that is FIESTIN in Spanish. In Bariloche also, and Jesus Fajardo in the Medical Physics Department. He is currently in Michigan University, and myself, hello again. Okay, the classroom has changed. We came from this situation to this one with so many black boxes and little letters and faces and person that accents and that. And in this case, our goal changed because we want to analyze the knowledge acquisition process in two different contexts. In the face-to-face, before the onset of the pandemic, and the virtual, during the confinement. The educational context was the same, just we add another year of work, and we work with the double of things, 4 semesters, 8 sections, and a total number of students, 173 students. Okay, in this case, how to start modeling this process? We use, again, the same classification proposed for Bordoña and Albano. Here we can see in this table the distribution of students according to the context and the group. And here we can see the final grade in blue for the face-to-face context in solid field. And in the empty orange circles, I say for person with daltonismo. In the orange empty circles is the virtual context. Okay, here I'll show you the average performance and context. That is the average of final grade with the same colors, blue for face-to-face, orange for virtual, and we can see the performance of each group change differently with the context. For HA students, its KF increased during this context, and for those in the AA and LA, this performance decreased. And again, we were inspired by our previous work, but improvement or so, and where the final knowledge acquired by an individual in the course is the sum of a principal terms. And each term has a weight that, depending on the group of the group of each student. Again, we keep working with the same hypothesis, a specific type of learning, concept of knowledge as a quantifiable and concrete measure, and also, of course, well-defined conceptual frameworks. In this case, obviously, the classroom, it was not the same, and we use Google Tools to obtain the information about the classroom or that kind of dynamics with questions, for example, do you have a study group? How many persons are in the group? Who are they? And so on. And in the surveys, again, we collect the aforementioned factors, M, T, and P, in the same three moments, at the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. And again, at the end of the course, we compare with the final grade of each student. Okay, here we can see the last plot that I showed you, that is the average final grade. And if our hypothesis was that the final knowledge is the sum of, or can be posed as a sum of M, T, and P, let's see how this term changed. And we calculate the relative change of each of one quantities, and we can see a decreased motivation, and that is not a surprise, right? Everyone feels, or just me, in the. And we also see a change in the way students interact with teachers and other students. Yeah, for example, the students with low scores try to interact more with teachers and less with their peers, for example. And with this information, we build networks of interaction between students. In this table, we have the distribution according to if the students are isolated or in groups. And we have similarities and differences about the face-to-face network. No, sorry. The similarity was presence of highly connected clusters as well as isolated students. You can see that. And the differences was the virtual network has nodes that connect different different clusters, like that, or like that, or like that. And that show a new form of relationship of students, and where the problem was that in face-to-face we can see Fatima interact with Pablo and Pablo interact with Fatima, but in the virtual context, when I ask Pablo, where are you student group, he don't take my name at all. But I said, I know Pablo, I work with him, but not, and there are not bi-directional. But the previous plot was made with raw data from the surveys. And our idea, or our goal is to find the weights. And we use two different approaches, artificial neural networks and multiple linear regression method. About the single layer perceptor network, we have the inputs of the neurons, that is at the dendrites of the neuron. The inputs are the data, motivation, interaction with teachers, interaction with peers. And we train the network, but then we suppress the activation function, and then we obtain the weights. And here we can see the results of using these methods, and here in numbers, here in bars. And we can see a generality of the coefficient in both contexts and preponderance of the terms of teachers. And here again, it's the plot or the comparison between the real final grades with the model using the weights obtained by this method. Okay. In the second method, we use a multiple linear regression with another hypothesis, with adding other hypotheses that the groups that you belong. And again, we obtain a preponderance of the term of teacher using this way or this form of regression, and we obtain that the p-values indicates that, sorry, the p-values obtained indicate that all regression coefficients are statistical significant. And here is again the comparison between the model with the real finite grades using this regression. And summary, I just we have a lot of time. We analyze various quantities that participate in the knowledge acquisition process in face-to-face and virtual contexts for a specific study case or case study. We develop an analytical model based on data consisting of a series of surveys and observations that are contrast with information on academic performance. And we saw that the shift to virtuality reflects a lack of motivation to learn and a change in the way interact with peers, in the way students interact with peers and with his teachers. And the emerging network of contacts built from the interaction between peers reveals different structures in both contexts. We explore two methods to know the weights of the different factors considered, and in both contexts, the weights are similar. In all cases, the interaction with teachers is of utmost importance in the process of acquiring knowledge. And sorry for, we have a lot of time, and if I talk very, very fast, sorry for that, and thank you.
Thanks, Fatima. We can start with the questions. Well, if there is anybody online that wants to ask, you can write in the chat.
Or speak loud.
Or speak. Probably better if you speak. I see the chat, but okay. So just say something. Okay, so unmute and talk. Here in the room, we have any?
I don't understand the difference between the two models you use for in the last part, the virtual part. In the neural network, you suppress the activation function, so you are doing a linear fit.
Yeah.
But in what you call linear regression has more factors. Or what is the difference between the two approaches?
The difference was in the multiple linear regression. We use the name is dummies variables, but the dummies variables, if you belongs to group or another, using a reference group. And yes, in the question, it was different, a little bit different.
Sorry, but by group you mean the study groups? You mean
if you are high or average or low?
No, the graphs formed by affinity.
No. You use a reference group. It's a little bit different, yeah.
Okay, another question in this case. I mean, when you have here the plots, there is this dispersion in the points. Have you used it to compare different models? Because I assume that the model would be perfect if actually it will fit. Exactly the
no, we don't compare two models, no.
Okay, more questions? No? And online? No? Okay. Last chance then? No? Okay, so well, then we stop here. Thanks, Fatima, and we can clap again.